Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick. Matt got some new Q posts for you, and we're going to read right through them. Keep in mind, I always read through these once, so if you want to skip through to the analysis, just click on the timestamp below, and I don't know what happens, but it just takes you right there. It's weird. All right, here we go. Post 1666. 52 minutes after the hour of midnight, we get this Breitbart link. Reread drops regarding 5 eyes. This FVEY means 5 eyes. Will be extremely important going forward. UK in brackets. Primary, turn taken. FBI, DOJ to state. Hussein White House, INC CIA, I'm assuming that means including CIA / other appointment start to foreign bad actors. Rod Rosenstein in brackets, deadline. We have the server, Q. Post 1667, 54 minutes after the hour of midnight, adding on to that. Normally, intelligence passed on from a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, to another member comes through an official channel for intelligence sharing. However, Nunes, upon reviewing the document that formally launched the FBI's investigation, said there was no intelligence shared through that official channel, meaning that the intelligence was shared through unofficial means. Post 1668. 58 minutes after the hour of midnight, adding on to that. We have this post from May 10th. Read below slow and carefully. 5 eyes. Why do former dignitaries still hold SEC clearance? US to US equals logged, flagged, recorded. US and New Zealand, no logs, no flags, no records equals US security clearance. Authorized 5 eyes view plus doc take. Read above slow and carefully. Why do we allow former dignitary security clearance? And former is in brackets. Welcome to the deep state. Future to prove past. Q. Post 1669. This is a post from April 22nd. Not official product. 5 eyes. Listen carefully. No evidence to support POTUS targeting. None. Do you understand the gravity of what's unfolding? Evil and corruption. She had to win at all costs. You know why. How do people support for these people? And there was a Fox link there. Q. Post 1670. We get what looks to be a search page regarding Michael Cohen. Trump lawyer Michael Cohen says his family, not the president, is his first loyalty. Michael Cohen, Trump's former personal lawyer, says he now puts family and country first. Trump's former personal lawyer says he'll put family first. You get the idea. Q says, 4 a.m. in brackets. What will tomorrow be? Coordinated. What happened to Stormy? Fake news. Q. All right, let's go back to the beginning. 1666. Yikes. Takes you to a Breitbart link here. Reread drops regarding 5 eyes. And of course, the 5 eyes is a security alliance between Australia. There it is right there. Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and the US. Will be extremely important going forward. Yes, it will, because the UK, being the primary source, was the source of the Steele dossier. Q says turn taken. And then goes on to say FBI, DOJ to state, Hussein White House, including CIA / other appointment, start to foreign bad actors. And Q is referring to this right here off of Breitbart. Nunes refers 10 Obama officials to House Judiciary and Oversight Joint Task Force. Nunes, in a letter to the chairman of both committees obtained by Breitbart News, listed 10 current and former U.S. officials who may have received or provided information relevant to their investigation. The list includes a number of U.S. officials who were working at the U.S. Embassy in London, where the alleged conversation between Australian diplomat Alexander Downer and then Trump campaign advisor George Papadopoulos in May 2016 was reported. Interviews with those officials could reveal whether the FBI lied when it said it began investigating the Trump campaign on July 31st, 2016. After it received information from Downer after stolen Democratic National Committee emails were published on July 22, 2016. Leaks to the New York Times and the Washington Post earlier this year revealed that an FBI and CIA informant, Stephen Halper, reached out to then Trump campaign advisor Carter Page as early as June 2016, revealing that the FBI may have actually started its investigation of the Trump campaign much earlier than stated. The circumstances around the Papadopoulos conversation are also not clear. Papadopoulos was reportedly told by a Maltese professor named Joseph Mifsud that Russia had dirt on Hillary Clinton in the form of emails. Downer requested a meeting with Papadopoulos weeks afterward. Papadopoulos, reportedly told Downer in May 2016 that he was told Russia had dirt on Clinton, but did not specify emails. The conversation was reportedly passed on from Downer to Am. Joe Hockey, who was Australia's ambassador to the United Kingdom, serving in London at that time. Hockey reportedly passed on the conversation to the U.S. Embassy in London after the emails were released on July 22, 2016, who related then to the FBI. Normally, intelligence passed on from a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, to another member comes through an official channel for intelligence sharing. However, Nunes, upon reviewing the document that formally launched the FBI's investigation, said there was no intelligence shared through that official channel, meaning that the intelligence was shared through unofficial means. U.S. officials who were serving at the U.S. Embassy in London listed in Nunes' letter included Elizabeth Dibble, Louis Lukens, and Thomas Williams. Dibble served as the Deputy Chief of Mission at the Embassy from 2013 through July 2016. Previously, she served as the Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary in the State Department's Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs from 2011 to 2013. Lukens is the current Deputy Chief of Mission at the Embassy, who has served there since August 2016. Williams serves as the Minister Counselor for Political Affairs at the Embassy, where he has served since at least December 2015. Nunes' letter also lists State Department officials in Washington who have admitted to receiving information from ex-British spy Christopher Steele, who was hired by Fusion GPS to dig up ties between then-candidate Donald Trump and Russia for the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. Those officials are Jonathan Weiner and Victoria Nuland. Weiner admitted in an op-ed piece earlier this year that Steele, a longtime contact, gave him a summary of what he had found and that he had passed it on to Nuland, who advised Weiner to tell Steele to give it to the FBI. Nuland admitted during a hearing that she learned of the information as early as mid-July 2016. The information from Steele, in the form of a dossier, included several salacious claims that have been unverified to date. Nuland has also admitted that she was responsible for ringing an alarm bell early on during the campaign of potential ties between Trump and Russia. Her husband, Bob Kagan, is a neoconservative scholar who left the Republican Party over Trump's nomination. At the time she received the dossier summary, Nuland was the top State Department official for Russian affairs, serving as the Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs. Nunes' letter also lists Colin Kahl, former National Security Advisor to former Vice President Joe Biden, another former Biden aide, and former journalist Shalike Murray, who is married to a Fusion GPS executive, Neil King Jr., as well as former top Clinton State Department aide and campaign official Jake Sullivan. Okay, so tons of chatter from some of our European friends about this dossier that was going all over the place, getting even to the media, and yet wasn't going through this Five Eyes Alliance. And here it really sums it up right here. Normally, intelligence passed on from a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, the US, to another member comes through an official channel. Well, Christopher Steele didn't seem like a very official channel to me. However, Nunes, upon reviewing the document that formally launched the FBI's investigation, said there was no intelligence shared through that official channel, meaning that the intelligence was shared through unofficial means. Yeah, meaning that it's unofficial, meaning that it's likely bunk. And now it looks like Nunes wants to talk to these people, Elizabeth Dibble, Lukens, and Thomas Williams, some kind of relatively new names and faces that we'll be learning about. And we'll have to see what their take is on it. But let's hear a little bit from Nunes himself. He's being interviewed here on Laura Ingraham, and it's just it's an absolutely great interview, and I think it's going to be really, really telling as to what Q is talking about here.
House Intel Chair Devin Nunes is tightening the screws in his investigation into alleged surveillance abuses of the Trump campaign. The congressman is now referring the names of 17 current and former Justice Department and FBI officials to the heads of the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees for interviews. Just hours ago, he added 10 more names to the list, this time former Obama State Department employees. Joining us now with more exclusively is Congressman Devin Nunes. Congressman, it's great to see you. Now, I know people watching across the country, they're getting ready for 4th of July. They're thinking, Devin Nunes wants more information. I'm playing devil's advocate here. When will it end? It's like you're always complaining about documents. Now you're complaining about people. But there are a lot of people on this list that are new names to people, like Victoria Nuland. Tell us why you want her to testify.
Well, first of all, I want to make sure the American people know that this is just this one more step in the process. I think we've been very transparent about how we've conducted this process. We went on to FISA abuse and other matters. I've said for a long time that we're looking at the State Department. When we began looking at the State Department, you had Victoria Nuland and a few other people who decided to go out and talk about things publicly, which actually helped our investigation out quite a bit. The reason why is because we still don't understand how this investigation was actually opened. But we know that many people in the Obama-era State Department were involved in the opening of that investigation. So it all comes down to how did the information make it from supposedly an Australian High Commissioner or Ambassador to the FBI. So we know that that didn't come through what I would call Five Eyes intelligence. It wasn't real intelligence product. It somehow short-circuited that process. We also know that many people in the State Department were meeting with Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele is the person who was hired by the Democrats to dig up dirt on President Trump. So this is why this investigation is taking a while. But the good thing is that I believe that Chairman Gowdy and Goodlatte, their task force, will interview these people, and they will interview them in public. So it will be the first time during this entire investigation that the American people get to see actual questions get answered to these potential witnesses.
Again, State Department. Now, why would the State Department be involved with the Christopher Steele dossier issue? Again, phony dossier. Christopher Steele, MI6, worked as an agent, supposedly has all these Russian sources. And why would this woman, Elizabeth Dibble, be on your list, who was, I think, was she the director, the deputy chief of the mission in London for the State Department? That seems like someone you might be looking at for one of the, people put into the Trump campaign, allegedly, as a informant, correct?
Well, I wouldn't go there, but two parallel tracks here, and you kind of touched on both of them. So one, we have the London episode. Somehow information made it from the Australian government to the FBI. We believe that went through London and somehow went to the Obama State Department that then ended up in the Justice Department. So that's one track. The second track is Christopher Steele. What on earth was Christopher Steele doing meeting with State Department officials, and why was the Steele dossier that supposedly the FBI was trying to get their hands on, why was it also going through the State Department? So a lot of people had their hands on the Steele dossier, including many people in the media who knew about the Steele dossier. And this is really a collapse. What we're having to do here as the legislative branch of government, we're having to do the work that the media won't do, because there are very few in the media who will actually cover this story to try to get to the bottom of it. And that's part of what's taking so long. Typically, you would have a free and fair and transparent media trying to get to the truth. But in this case, we haven't had that.
So Jonathan, is it Weiner, was on your list? Who is he? And I guess it was several months ago, he said he's being unfairly targeted by you.
Yeah, that was quite interesting that he thought that we were targeting him, because at the time we weren't sure exactly what he knew or didn't know. But thankfully, he was very clear in the statements that he made that he was one of the people that was looking at the Steele information and was conveying that information in some form or fashion to the FBI. So look, we want to interview these folks. These folks work for the American taxpayer.
But how do you compel that, Congressman?
They were paid by the American taxpayer.
I'm sorry, you can subpoena them?
They're going to testify. I mean, they can plead the fifth, but this isn't going to be like the documents where we've had to continue to fight with the Justice Department in order to have access to documents. This is much different. These are all American citizens. They will, if they do not agree to appear under oath and testify, then they will be subpoenaed. That I can tell you for sure.
Well, that looks to me to be a turn taken. Nunes talking about some possible subpoenas. It looks like probable subpoenas for some of these former and current state officials, some of them who worked under the Hussein White House. And of course, what was Christopher Steele doing talking to state officials? Who knows? They were passing around this information, re-gifting it like a fruitcake. Look at this. Nunes's letter also lists State Department officials in Washington who have admitted to receiving information from ex-British spy Christopher Steele. So we've got this super duper spy, Christopher Steele, James Bond himself, who was hired by Fusion GPS to dig up ties between then candidate Donald Trump. Not President Trump, then candidate Trump. And those people were Jonathan Weiner and Victoria Nuland, and hopefully we will hear what they have to say. But they admitted in an op-ed earlier this year that Steele, so we got Steele, longtime contact, gave him a summary. So we go Steele to Weiner. Weiner passes it on to Nuland. Nuland advises Weiner to tell Steele to give it to the FBI. And yet none of this information was going through proper channels, meaning that it's not really proper information. Or at the very least, this is tainted information. So we are going to find out some more about some of these people going forward, but it's interesting timing coinciding with this deadline for Rod Rosenstein coming up very, very soon. And of course, Q says we have the server, meaning that we have it all along. So what are you going to do, Rod Rowe? Come at me, Rosenstein. You're going to have to release it, or you're going to have to let all these people talk about it and let it leak out and prove you wrong. That would be my guess, right? After all, if you've got the server, you've got it all. So what's the point in redacting? What's the point in adjusting other than covering up your guilt? Q says we have the server. Let's move on. Now the next post, Q just goes right back to this this quote from the Breitbart link here. Normally, intelligence passed on from a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, the UK, and the US, to another member comes through an official channel for intelligence sharing. Yet, it doesn't go through former MI6 Christopher Steele. However, Nunes, upon reviewing the document that formally launched the FBI's investigation, said there was no intelligence shared through that official channel, meaning that the intelligence was shared through unofficial means. Well, unofficial means would lead to unofficial business. That's at least how I would look at it, right? Unofficial business doesn't sound right. Why doesn't the president know about this? How come everybody and their brother knows, but the president doesn't know about this? Doesn't seem right. This story doesn't hold up, and we all know it. Looks like we're going to find out more about it. In the next post here, 1668, Q takes us back to May 10th. And right around this time, if you remember, Hillary Clinton was in New Zealand. Shoot, she was talking about living there, right? She was talking about she's probably going to get one of those super duper nuclear bunkers, right? One of those big old hoopties. Go bunker down in New Zealand. Hang out. Why? Why New Zealand? Five Eyes Nation. Well, according to this, read below and carefully. Five Eyes. Why do former dignitaries still hold SEC clearance? Well, I'm not really sure that they're supposed to. Maybe some do. I'm not really sure that they're supposed to. U.S. to U.S. logged, flagged, recording, meaning that if you're operating within the U.S., all that stuff's going to get logged, flagged, and recorded, especially if you hold an SEC clearance. However, looks like New Zealand, they don't play that way. No logs, no flags, no records. Well, I guess that'd be a great place for Hillary to hang out because she likes all that kind of stuff. She doesn't like the rules. She's a renegade. She's an easy rider. She's I don't know. I don't have one for you. I'm done. I'm wiped out. U.S. security clearance. Authorized. Five Eyes view. Document and take. Yeah, exactly. She can get it and go. Read above, slow and carefully. I think I just did. Why do we allow former dignitaries SEC clearance? Well, because I guess that those eyes can be on her too. Remember, it's 5 eyes. That's 1 eye per country, which seems like you might want to have 10 eyes, but it's neither here nor there. Looks like there could be an eye on Hillary. After all, Q said we had the server, right? Welcome to the deep state. Future to prove past. That was back in May. Back in April, Q gave us this and refers it to us. Excuse me. This was a Fox News link. It was an interview with Devin Nunes, not an official product. And it basically refers back to this quote right here, okay, being an official channel for intelligence sharing. And when Nunes reviewed this, he realized that it wasn't an official product. Q says, listen carefully. No evidence to support POTUS targeting. None. Do you understand the gravity of what's unfolding? Evil and corruption. She had to win at all costs. Yeah, she wasn't going to win because there weren't enough illegals here yet to vote for her. And she couldn't get these machines rigged, I guess, well enough to win. So what is she going to do? She's got to dig something up. This was the contingency plan. This was the backup plan. That if we can't win, then we are going to just pull something up. After all, he's a billionaire, right? He's got to be involved in something nefarious. So we'll dig up some spying stuff. He's been to Russia a few times. There's got to be a tie. So we put some plants in there. We set it all up. We make a recording. We get Super James Bond, Christopher Steele, and the dossier. We set it all up, and boom, Trump's going to go down. After all, she had to win at all costs. You know why. How do people support and vote for these people? I don't know. Some of them still do, but many of them are walking away. And our last post, 1670, Q gives us this. Looks like a search result here. Q has typed in Trump, lawyer, family, first. And it has come up with these results. It looks like Q has dialed into this CNBC article. It says Michael Cohen, Trump's former personal lawyer, says he now puts family and country first. Michael Cohen also told George Stephanopoulos that he would defer to his new lawyer, Guy Petrillo, if federal prosecutors charge him with anything in their investigation. Okay, so Cohen is lawyered up himself, did this interview with George Stephanopoulos, and of course the mainstream media is jumping all over this because he says he now puts family and country first, and they're kind of taking that to mean that he is going to flip on Trump. I don't necessarily think that's the way to interpret it, but of course that's how people interpret the mainstream media. And of course Stormy Daniels' lawyer Avenatti jumped all over this, saying that this is going to be suicide, him doing this interview. We shall see. Q says 4 a.m. What will tomorrow be? Q coordinated. What happened to Stormy? Fake news. Q. For those of you who are new to QAnon, these 4 a.m. Is referring to 4 a.m. talking points that get sent out by these major news conglomerates. And they send this stuff all over the world, but it gets all the way down to your local news media. And they basically read a script. There's not a whole lot of investigative journalism going on. People are just basically reading the same talking points, and they go out every morning at 4 a.m. So that's what that's referring to. What will tomorrow be? I would assume it's going to be a bunch of Michael Cohen. That's what it looks like. What happened to Stormy? Yeah, I don't know. I guess she was supposed to go on this middle finger tour with Kathy Griffith, right? They were going to take down Trump. They were going to be his worst enemy. And then, of course, there was the other dynamic duo of Tom Arnold, who was going to team up with Michael Cohen. Not according to Michael Cohen, but according to Tom Arnold. They were going to team up, and they were going to take it down because he had videos and stuff. According to Tom Arnold, videos and stuff. So be on the lookout for that, I guess. Q is posting this at 8:18 a.m. I'm not sure if there's a significance in the time. Doesn't look like Q's got any Wi-Fi either. Geez, Q, how'd you post it if you didn't have any Wi-Fi? You got Bluetooth going on. And you're down to 7% battery, Q. Boy, you were low before, but now you're all the way down to 7%. Almost kind of like the deep state had 7 days to produce the Whopper with cheese, which would be, of course, the full-blown IG report. So we'll see what goes on, but it looks like we are going to be talking about Michael Cohen. And, of course, you remember his office was raided, and they raided basically Stormy Daniels' information. So very interesting. Let me turn you on to a quick interview here from judicial analyst Andrew Napolitano. Let's see what he has to say about this.
So he went from taking a bullet to taking an interview.
Right. I don't know why he would do this. I can't imagine his lawyers would want him to do so. There's no good that can come from somebody who's under a federal microscope. He's not a subject of a criminal investigation like the president. He's the target of a criminal investigation. That means he's very close to being indicted for something. We don't know what. I can speculate if you want. No good can come from trying to communicate to those who are trying to indict you through television rather than through your lawyers.
And I would add, if we got you to speculate, it would be more like, a connotation than real speculation, because you're looking at all the facts here. Real quickly, though, talk to me about the substance of what he told ABC, and then we can talk about what he might face.
The substance of what he told ABC, if it's true and if he means it, should cause the president sleepless nights. I mean, Michael Cohen was not only the president's lawyer. He was his fixer. That is, the president asked him to do things that lawyers don't typically do. You see this problem, make it go away. You know where to get the cash.
Which comes to the question that I've seen asked in different ways, and I don't know what they'll ask of Michael Cohen, but why did the president trust him? Is there something in his background? What about Michael Cohen?
Michael Cohen must have impressed the president. We're talking about 10 years ago when he first started to work for the obviously pre-presidential Donald Trump as somebody who would take a bullet, somebody who would do things that other lawyers might not want to dirty their hands doing. I'm not suggesting that they committed crimes together, but it does appear as though Michael Cohen was involved in things that other lawyers wouldn't go near, like paying people for silence, like getting newspapers to say something different than what they wanted to say.
So why wouldn't he talk about that now? That $130,000 question, as Laura Ingle put it. You know, I won't tell you yet, basically, was his response.
Again, it's hard for me to figure out what his game plan is.
Should the president be worried?
Yes.
Why?
Well, if Michael Cohen is telling the truth, that he who once said he would take a bullet for the president now can't wait to roll over for him, he obviously knows something that the feds are interested in hearing, and they will soon go through a procedure whereby he will tell them what he knows, and they'll decide whether or not they want to use it. Now, they won't do that until they have leverage over him, and they won't have leverage over him until they indict him.
We've seen a lot of bloviators. You know, I mean, you've got Michael Avenatti out there for Stormy Daniels. You've got people who say, I have a disc here on Twitter, and I'll show it, and it's got all the evidence, and I've got recordings. But in terms of just whittling this down to real evidence, I mean, is Michael Cohen another one of those bloviators?
I don't think so. This is a real case. I mean, the government has more than 1 million pieces of evidence that it obtained from 4 search warrants that it executed on his homes and his places of business. We don't know what it is, but a retired federal judge went through all of it and found a few hundred that are protected by the attorney-client privilege and gave the vast majority over to the feds to allow them to use it and present it to a grand jury. We don't know what it's evidence of, but it's evidence of something that the federal prosecutors are interested in.
Now we've gotten to the point where your perspective and expertise and experience come into play. I refuse to call it pure speculation because you've seen so much of this.
You're so kind.
So what is it?
It's probably bank fraud. It's probably the borrowing of money to pay off obligations of then Mr. Donald Trump without telling the bank exactly where the money is going to go. So if you borrow money from a bank and say, I'm going to put a new roof on my house, and instead you use the money to pay a porn star.
Any amount?
Well, it would, in order for it to be fraudulent.
It's got to be above a certain amount.
No. The amount reflects the penalty. The amount doesn't reflect the crime. You can be fraudulent with $1. You're not going to get 10 years. But if you're fraudulent with $130,000, you're going to get 10 years.
I got you.
So it looks like we've got our 4 a.m. talking points for the fake news this week. Q says it's all coordinated. And I guess that's what tomorrow is going to be all about, right? Or today really is going to be all about for you guys. Michael Cohen, you tell me, is putting family and country first, does that mean flipping on Trump? Or does family and country first mean he's staying loyal to Trump? After all, he said he would take a bullet for him at one point. Is Michael Cohen paying off porn star vixens for our president? Or does Michael Cohen know something that's going to allow these deep state baddies to walk into a trap? Either way, Q says this is fake news, but it looks like this is going to be what's being talked about this week, probably as a distraction for something else, like, I don't know, maybe IG reports and Five Eyes and, you know, important kind of stuff. But there you go. Now, before I let you go, I want to rememberize you about all this. Now, you remember the FBI raided Cohen's office. That was on April 8th, I believe. And, of course, we also had this, and I actually read it to you off of this very same article from the Daily News. Remember, Trump Tower blaze kills man on floor without sprinklers. Yeah, there was no sprinklers on that floor. It wasn't supposed to be. I guess they didn't need to be on the 50th floor according to this building's regulations. But this guy, Todd Brasner, was found dead. And he was a friend of Andy Warhol. And we really never got that much more about him. But this guy died. And this was the same time the office was getting raided. We get this fire. And this guy's dead. And President Trump tweeted, it says here, later in the evening, Trump made no mention of the death at his building. And that is very, very curious. Now, the curious thing about this whole story, if you remember, was this guy right here, Dennis Shields, a resident who said he lived on the 42nd floor, said there were no orders to evacuate, but he rushed outside after receiving a private text message from Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen. So Michael Cohen somehow knew about this fire. How about that? He said, "Are you in the building?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You better get out ASAP," Shields recalled. "That's how I knew to get out." And as you can see, that's a very, very black fire. Now, they called it an electrical fire, but everybody was saying that they smelled burning sulfur and a bunch of noise going on in the air conditioning system. Now, it didn't report it on this particular article. I read it from another article, but it was at the same time. And for those of you who've been following my channel for a while, you remember we were talking about the different kinds of fires going on. This was extremely suspect. And of course, this Dennis Shields, I don't know exactly who he is, but he's like a reality star, and he's married to some other reality star. She's one of those desperate housewife chicks or whatever, and she's got a company, and they drink snarky tea. Some of you guys remember all this stuff, and if you don't, it's no big deal. But very interesting that Michael Cohen seemed to have the inside scoop on all this. So just another thing that I wanted to rememberize you about when we get into these talking points this week. Those are your Q posts for today. If anything else comes up, I will let you know. These caught me off guard, kind of came in late today. So we shall see when the next slew of Q posts comes, but that's all I got for you for now. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. And if you didn't like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. That way you will be notified of the next video, and you can not like all that stuff too. All right, this is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay interested. This stuff is interesting.